Hey everybody, hope you're all as excited as I am for DC. And in this video, we're going to look at the flow of the Arts Challenge session, which is going to get added into the DC agenda because we're going to go for a 3-day camp. So this is the arc of transformation which we saw in the mental training. We understand ourselves through introspection in the Beautiful You session, and the children understand themselves and their peers through the River of Life session, and we look at the problems around us that we face as a community in the Arts Challenge session, and we go on to envisioning our dreams through the Dream Tree or the Bullseye session. So the Arts Challenge fits in the leadership part of the arc of transformation. This is the general arrangement of a developmental session. So I've mentioned CF as central facilitator and all the groups around. So the groups which have a common support mentor would be seated next to each other so that the support mentor would be able to help out both the groups. And the 14 to 16 age group and 10 to 13 age group will have sessions in different halls. If you have any doubts in regards to seating and placement of sessions, please feel free to reach out. We would also have a 15-minute flow discussion before each developmental session. So make sure that you go through the pre-work and you also attend that during the DC itself. So let us go into the Arts Challenge session. I've split it into 5 sections and for the 2 age groups. In this session, we are going to look at problems. We're going to identify one for us to brainstorm about, and then we're going to brainstorm solutions for the identified problems, and then we're going to present it to the entire audience. The session itself differs in the section 3 and section 4 for different age groups. The 14 to 16 age group also has a sing-along section at the end, which I will explain when explaining the detailed flow. So let us look at the detailed flow. I will explain the template using 14 to 16-year-old session, and I will explain the difference between this and the 10 to 13-year-old session. So the first part, introduction, consists of the PPT, where we would display all the problems that we face in society today. So let me just go over a couple of photos of that PPT. So for example, terrorism, water scarcity, child education, pollution, things like that. And then the slide would go on for around 10 more slides. So we would ask the children, what did you just see? What kind of problems did you just see? And then once they share that, we will ask them to think about more problems that they face as a community. This is where they do not think about problems they face as children in shelter homes, but the problems they face as a community. So once they are done with this, the first section gets over. So the section 2 is called identifying problems. This is where each child thinks about the problems and they tell 2 problems that they've thought of, and then as mentors you can assign one child to note down all the problems. So once the group is done, they can share that to the central facilitator, and we would note down all the problems that each group shares. So we looked at the problems, we thought of more problems which community faces, and now we've identified a lot of problems. Now each group has to decide on a single problem that they're going to solve, and they're going to brainstorm solution. So this is where the flow differs between both age groups. The 14 to 16 age group, what they will do is they have to find three ways to solve the problem. The first one is, what kind of action do they need to do to stop or to mitigate the problem. For example, if the problem is pollution, the answer could be like, I should stop cutting trees. This is one way. The second thing they have to do is they have to tell an alternative to the solution. So alternative to solve the problem. For example, for pollution it could be like electric cars, biofuel, things like that. The third one is, what kind of shift in mindset would be required to solve the problem. This is where the children may find it difficult to understand, so as mentor we would encourage them to think more about this. For example, for pollution, again this could be like understanding governmental norms, things like that. So for the higher age group, these are the three things that they have to brainstorm solutions for the lower age group. They have to think about a short term solution, a long term solution, and finally a crazy solution. The Everything else is the same. They also have to identify a single problem, but the kind of solutions they come up with is a short term one, a long term one, and a crazy one. For the same example of pollution, short term one would be like maybe using public transport more. A long term solution could be like forming regulations through the government, and a crazy solution would be like nobody go out, things like that. So that is where both the things differ. So now we are going to go into the last part, which is the presentation part. So here is where again the two groups differ. In higher age group, what we're going to do is we're going to put three groups of children together, and each group has to share to two other groups. How they're going to share is they're not going to just read out their solutions. They can present it in the form of a play, a song, a mime, or a drawing. So this is also similar to both age groups. So they have to present it in the form of a sing song, or a mime, or a skit, or a drawing. So that is the flow of the session for both the groups. Just the higher age group has one more final session, which is called the sing-along session. Here we choose a song which unites us as community and unites us with earth as well. A song example could be like Vellai Pookal, something like that, and that would end the session for the higher age group. Hope you have now an understanding of the flow of the session. If you have any doubt, please feel free to reach out to any of us.